Well, I was thinking about this the other day. You guys would enjoy this story. As far as how I even got involved in teaching was really kind of a backdoor approach where in 1975, I had contacted Portland Community College. I was working in downtown Portland at Jafco Stereo and Camera Store. And I was ready to bust loose, but I needed a few more lessons, I felt. And so I called community college up at Portland Community College and described in great detail this course that I was hoping that they would somehow offer. And they said, "Wow, that sounds really fantastic. No, we don't have a course like that, but it sounds like you should teach it." And I said, "No, no, no, you misunderstand. That's what I want to learn. I don't know any of that stuff." And they said, "Oh, well, I think you know more than you realize." That no, trust me, I don't know any of this. And so, make a long story short, they convinced me I should teach it. So I went in there with all these things I need to learn in 1975, and I had 39 students in the classroom. And I am literally giving my underarm perspiration deodorant a good workout. And the sweat's just pouring off of me and whatnot. And I looked at everybody and I said, "Well, I tell you, I know so much, I don't know where to begin," is what I said. So I wrote down on the board everything that I really wanted to learn. But I told them, these are things that I can teach you, but I don't know in what order. And so they responded and told me, this week, and so on for 8 weeks. So I had 1 week in between each lesson to finally learn how the hell are you supposed to do that. And I really spent a lot of time really just focusing really hard at the library and trying these ideas out. By God, by the time the next Tuesday night class came around, I had a couple of slides to show them the before and after. And it was a smashing success. And ever since then, that's kind of been my modus operandi, where I do this behind the scenes and then the end result kind of thing. And how interesting that it all started with a real ignorant young man who had no idea how to do anything, but he was thrust into a position that he had to produce. So there you go.
And you were at the Statesman Journal, weren't you, writing a column?
No. I knew Ron Cooper really well from the Statesman Journal, but Jerry Lewin as well. But I didn't start writing a column until I got to Portland, and I call it the fish wrap. It came out every Tuesday, and it was a paper that you would throw away other than get the grocery ads out of, and that was called This Week. And I started writing for them a weekly photo column, and yeah, that's another great story because I wrote for them for 3 years every week, faithfully, and I had the idea because I had a pretty good following in Oregon, and I said, why don't I do a book about photographing Oregon, some of the best places to go, the best time of year, best time of day, what lens to use, what kind of shots to take. Pretty ambitious. So I did. And then the publisher at This Week, I said, hey, can I promote my book in the column? And he said, yeah, sure. And I said, okay, I tell you what, how many copies do I have to sell to get to double my salary? I was getting $30 a week. And he said, I'll give you $100 a week if you can sell 50 copies of that book through the column. That'll tell me you got a lot of good readers. I said 50 copies. And I'm thinking, I think I can do that. So make a long story short, I go to the post office after announcing the book a couple of days later, expecting my P.O. box to be just, have half a dozen orders in it. And it said article too large for the box. So I thought, I didn't remember ordering anything. So I take it up to Fred at the counter there in Hillsboro, who I knew really well. And I said, I got something too big for the box. He said, what the hell do you do? He said, I got so damn much mail for you, it's not even funny. And he brings out a basket. And I had 1,400 orders for that book.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wasn't ready for it. So I had to get a couple neighbors to help me to fill the orders because each one I promised to be signed and numbered edition. And of course, I got my raise at This Week and I was off to the races after that. And the rest is history. So there you go. Yeah. I was actually down in Oregon. Funny story. 2 years ago, doing my Oregon workshop, and right there in Grand Ron, on the right side of the road as you're heading to Lincoln City, is an old bookstore. And it's got a big sign up, says used books. It's like a hardware store as well. I go in there, and I got to talking to the lady who owned the store, and I saw she had a copy of Photographing Oregon with Professional Results. That was the name of that first book I just talked about. And I said, "Oh my God, you got a copy of my first book I ever wrote." And she goes, "Well, I'm sorry." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. This is my book." And really, I said, "Yeah, it's actually my book. That's great. You got a copy in here. How much you want for it?" She said, "Well, I can do better than that." She said, "Do you want any extra copies?" And I said, "Would you have some?" And she said, "I got a whole case out in the back, unopened." So I said, "Well," and they were $9.95 retail. I said, "Well, how much you sell? How many do you have?" She said, "I have 50 copies in that case." I said, I'll give you what's a fair price?" She said, "You're the author, really?" And I showed her my ID. She said, "Oh my doggone it. I'll tell you what, how about you give me 50 cents a piece?" I couldn't pay her $25 fast enough. And sure enough, I brought that book back home, or that box of books back home with me. And I've kept it now in my little dry safe area, because I figured, oh, who knows, maybe one day after I'm long gone, my kids will have something that they can, throw out there on eBay and say, Bryan Peterson's first ever book, whatever. But who knows? Anyway, it's funny how that works. But nonetheless, I didn't think that book was in print anymore, but she had 50 copies of it. So there you go. Yeah.
It would probably still be a handy book to have for those of us still in Oregon here, or who've just gotten to Oregon.
Yeah, not much has changed. I was looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
And well, you could say almost the same thing, the best time to go shoot shore acres during the storms and where to go sit. Nothing's changed. I mean, you go out to those 2 points and get that big crashing surf against the Shore Acres State Park cliffs, and get some nice work out of it. So
yeah, and some of us are new to Oregon. I mean, you've obviously been here, and some people here, I guess, have been here a long time, but there are a lot of newcomers, migrants.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no,
I'm one of those relatively recent migrants.
Where'd you come from anyway, Madeline?
I'm originally from New York,
Okay.
New York City.
Wow.
But before here, I was living in Nicaragua for 8 years.
What were you doing in Nicaragua?
Hanging out,
Oh,
retired, living in Granada.
okay.
Yeah, it was great. We've been expats. We've lived in Japan. We've lived in the Czech Republic. I've lived in Italy. And then we wound up in Nicaragua and settled there for a while. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I've lived around the world as well. I wouldn't trade it for a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband didn't like traveling. I found it easier to move. He could set up his routine. It's easier. You don't pack for 2 weeks, you pack for a year.
Yeah, sure.
It's easy. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Great. You want to get started, or are you still waiting on
a few folks? It's about time. So what I'm going to do is mute everybody, and we've got a few announcements to make, and then I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, or not Catherine.
Well, I was going to introduce Bryan, but I think he's done a good job of that. I don't think,
Well, we still have a formal type.
Oh, we'll do that. It's not Catherine, though. It's Madeline.
Right? Yeah, I know. I misspoke. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
I was looking at Catherine's name when I. But anyway, we'll do the announcements, then I'll turn it over to Madeline, and we'll get started with Bryan. But right now, I'm going to mute everybody if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Now, we've got a few things coming up. Friday, Matt is going to be hosting a hangout. Did you want to talk about that, Matt?
Just hanging out, talking about whatever, camera, photography, friends, whatever. Doesn't have to be photo related. Hanging out.
Okay.
That's all it is.
All right. And then the next Wednesday will be our regularly scheduled critique. We don't have anybody here that's representing that, but the information's on our website. And Stephanie, do you have an update on our election situation?
Well, I've made some announcements and nobody has stepped up to throw their hat in the ring. So other than the people that we talked about, but nobody else in the club has. So we need a digital contents editor. We need a vice president, and we need events coordinator. And the people who are now in those positions will stay on and help and advise, but it's an opportunity for people to come and be a little more involved in the club. So they can email me, they can talk to Greg, they can talk to you, but so far nobody stepped up.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything that they've got going on coming up they want to talk about before we get into things?
On December 2nd, I'm going to have a Lightroom and Photoshop walkthrough or workflow. I'm just going to pull up some of my own images and share my screen and talk about how I edit images, and sort of a round table about it. I'm going to try and show some of the new tools in Lightroom and Photoshop. I'm not a big expert on this stuff, but I think we can all learn from one another, and I'm happy to expose my faults, and we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. Thank you, Max.
I've got something.
Okay.
On Sunday is going to be a king tide, and there's something called the Oregon King Tides project, where they are collecting photos of the high tides, and so Sunday is one of them. And with this big storm that's coming in, it could be really spectacular as well. So
I read they're predicting up to 35-foot waves. So
yeah,
everybody that goes over there, be careful, don't get too close.
yeah. But anyway, that's on Sunday, and then there's a Facebook page for the King Tides, and as well as another place to submit images. I can't remember where it's. They have their own website too.
Okay.
But,
thank you.
Yep.
When is this? You piqued my interest here. I think I need to come out and shoot a king tide.
It's fun. As Rick said, you got to be careful though.
Well, I've been there for many gale storms, but it's been some time. Which days is the king tide?
Sunday is the king tide.
Okay.
And I've been going between Fogarty Beach and Depot Bay.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the best place to be, right there with those parking lot areas.
Yeah. Fogarty, you got to really watch yourself, because the last time I was there was no beach. Everybody was standing up by the highway.
Yeah.
And if this big tide or the big waves come in, it could be even more interesting.
Expecting rain or just high tides and wind?
This was just high tide. But thank you, Kat.
Yeah.
No, there's supposed to be a big storm this weekend too.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a lot of rain and snow. I think there's going to be snow on the coastal mountains as well.
Yeah.
Coastal range.
And the possibilities of coastal flooding. It's going to get dangerous over there, maybe.
Yeah. So be advised.
High place.
Here it's saying I just looked it up on a website, and it's saying king tides will be the focus of the project November 15th through 17th.
15th, is that?
Yes, that's this weekend, 17th.
Oh, it is.
Tuesday,
Okay.
so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is what
Okay.
they're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then again, December 13th through 15th.
Right.
And again, January 11th through 13th.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Okay. Is that about it for announcements? If it is, then I'll turn it over to Madeline to get this show on the road.
Okay. Well, consider the show on the road then. I'm just grateful that I first was introduced to Bryan through a book in our library, what is it? The exposure book, Understanding Exposure, which is one of Bryan's many books. And then after that, I wound up taking his Oregon Coast workshop and joined some of his groups online. And I am so impressed with this gentleman as a photographer and a teacher that I'm thrilled that he's here talking to us tonight. And with all that, and he's from Salem. He's been here longer than, or was here longer than certainly I've been, and lots of others. So welcome home, Bryan. And
Yeah, hey, thanks.
there you go.
Hard to believe I'm actually, this is the first time I've ever talked to a club where I began my entire career. 1185 Parkway Drive. That's right. Actually, that's where I was before I had the camera. And when I had my camera, I actually, at that point, moved out of my parents' house at the age of 18. Very unusual to do that, I suppose, in this day and age, but that's what you did back in my age. If you were 19 and you're living at home, you were just really looked down on. So anyway, I moved to 540 Hanson Avenue South. Had a little 2-bedroom house out there, and the Oregon Coast and Silver Falls State Park became my proving grounds for about the next 2 years before I then moved to Portland. So anyway, Salem, Oregon, pretty amazing. That's where it all began. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do a share screen here, and then we'll just kind of get into it. That should work. And then once I press play, we should be off to the races. So 1 second here. I'm going to do one small thing. Although I've lost, well, it doesn't matter. Okay. All right, let's begin. So what we got here, if you want to follow me on social media, the best thing to do is Instagram. I post there quite often, as well as in my postings, offer up photo tips quite often. So you might be familiar with my books. This is the most recent edition, the 4th edition of Understanding Exposure. This is also the 3rd edition of Learning to See Creatively. These are the current books that are out. Color came out 2 years ago. And just about 2 months ago now, we've had the introduction of Understanding Portrait Photography that has come out. This book, by the way, I'll put the link in the comment section. You can purchase a signed copy. I have it up at my workshop website for those that might be interested. So first thing I want to do before I get into the whole seeing, expanding your vision kind of stuff and opening your eyes to perhaps things you wouldn't think of photographing. I just want to share with you, just a very, very small miniature portfolio and some brief, very brief stories behind the image. This one here in particular, I bring up because I did not know I had photographed a dog in the window until after the fact. I was focusing on the woman and the garments that she's selling in Jodhpur, India. And I was, focusing on her, looking at her. And I put the camera down momentarily. And that's when I saw the dog and I said, oh my God, there's a dog in the window. So I went back and shot some more and then realized that it had been there the whole time. So it's funny how that works. I don't think it hurts. I think it probably helps a little bit, adding some human interest. So another thing here, this is one of those right place, right time. The old idea of being lucky is because you're prepared when the right situation comes along. Preparedness here in this respect, of course, addresses the issue of always having your camera with you. But I'm actually in the Omo Valley of southern Ethiopia. And I'm 3 days out from a workshop beginning, and myself and my friend, guide, driver, all that title in one, we are slowing the car down because we're in what I call the Valley of Figs, which are these giant fig trees. And the people in their livestock were not in the photograph, plus the sun had not yet set, but it was about 40 minutes away. So I said, there's no rush. Let's just stay here and wait. And to my utter amazement, I was wanting to get nothing, just a picture of the big figs with the sunset. These guys crossed the street and it was a race. I thought, oh my God, are they going to get there in time? And, I don't have any ability to push them along, but everything just came together. One of those very serendipitous moments. So right place, right time kind of thing. Wonderful stuff. Lens choice. This is Nikon D850 with a 200-500. This is in Český Krumlov in Prague. I mean, not Prague, but in the Czech Republic. This is an artist studio on the exterior, and myself and my daughter came upon it, and I knew immediately that I needed my daughter to sit in that red bench. And fortunately, she also had a red scarf, which I told her to put on. And my kids are used to being called upon to be in my photos ever since they were little. So she was happy to oblige. Inlay Lake, Myanmar. This is every evening the opportunity to do this, because these guys actually are going around the lake and trying to convince the tourists that are out there with their own longboats to perform, and they'll be happy to do it. These are the old way of fishing. They dress up in the old way. They have the old fishing nets, and they perform for you. So perhaps you've seen shots like this from from Myanmar, and I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but it's fun to be able to make this part of your trip. That's the bottom line. So, and this is the cover of Understanding Exposure, the most recent edition. This is, of course, Sydney, Australia. What I will do sometimes to get the photo, and I'll be the first to admit, sometimes it's not necessarily completely honest. And I don't mean because I'm doing Photoshop, I mean honest in terms of the story that I tell to whoever I need to tell to make the photo. Case in point, I'm at a Jesuit boys' school making this picture from the teacher's lounge outdoor deck, which is completely off limits to anybody else. The Prime Minister's house is just below this. Security is really tight. But I was at the school, I saw the garage door was open, so I walked in, and it was a Saturday afternoon. And the gentleman came out and he said, whoa, what are you doing in here? And I said, oh, hey, there you are. I forgot, what's your name? And he said, my name's Lee. I said, yeah, that's what it is, Lee. I'm supposed to ask for you. Your boss said to look at, find Lee, and he'd set you up on the deck outside to get that photo for Qantas Airlines, because I need to get a shot for them tonight. And he goes, what? No, boss didn't. I said, yeah, he said to give you the $50 because he knew you had to stay over a little late. And he's $50. Whoa. And I said, so anyway, I'm supposed to pay you. And he said, it's fine. He said, oh, okay. So anyway, I took the picture, and his girlfriend came by because he was staying late. I took their picture as well with a flash fill against the city in the background. And oh, they were so happy. And then next day got an email from Lee, and he said, hey, I think you lied to me. Boss never heard of you. So I said, well, that's really weird. And that's all I said. So anyway, but there it is. I got the photo. And I am the envy of many friends of mine in Sydney, because even they who live there can't get that shot. Burano, Italy, recommended highly. The most colorful island in all of Europe. It's houses like this everywhere. I don't have any other pictures to show you, but trust me, it's like a rainbow of colors. We're back now in Myanmar at a textile factory. I do on occasion have models come into a workshop. In this case, this was a model, and I went ahead and threw her into the photo as well. Although she did look a lot like the girls that are working at the factory. And here, this is me driving into the Zuamzi Tunnel, coming in on 26 into downtown Portland. And I know you're not supposed to shoot and drive at the same time, but hey, you don't want to miss a chance to get that great shot. So turn the wipers off and take a few photos before you get back to the steering wheel again. Beautiful Holland. I do it every April. Recommended highly. If you've never been over there, you need to go over there, and once in your lifetime. Always the last 2 weeks of April are the peak time where the fields are crawling with flowers. And you'll get shots like this all the time. The winter's fighting with spring. It's incredible weather as well. People are surprised to discover that this exposure was made while I was literally asleep. And they're wondering, how's that possible? Well, because it's, first of all, the camera's outside on the 45th floor of my room at the Swiss Hotel in downtown Singapore. It is November, which is November, December, January, the rainy lightning thunderstorm season. And I set the camera up with my Nikon D850 and the 1424 at around 18 millimeters. I set an exposure for the ambient, which in this case is f11, 15 seconds with 100 ISO, knowing also that f11 is a good aperture for lightning strikes. The camera's brand new battery, brand new card, locking cable release, set to continuous high on the advanced of the motor drive. So I click it once, and every 15 seconds, it's going to take another and another and another. So I closed the door and went to bed. Woke up the next day, 7 o'clock, battery's drained, card's not full by any means, but anyway, I breezed through the card and I had 17 lightning strikes. And here's one of them here. So there you go. It's amazing what you can do when you're sleeping, for what it's worth. Then you have this very strange photo that was just taken last week. I was in New York, and it was around 12:30 at night, and I had just finished up trying to get something happening around Times Square with the election, and it was very quiet. Obviously, there was no decision made as who was the president was going to be. And I came around the corner on 42nd Street to go get the subway to go back to my Airbnb, and I hear this kind of a grunting noises coming out from underneath this old theater marquee. And I see this, and I just went, oh my God, what is this? And I kept walking really fast. I felt I'd fallen into some serial killer Hollywood movie. Anyway, as I walked further away, I said, what are you doing? You need to go back and shoot that. And I said, no, yes, no. And I finally said, okay, I will, but I'm not going back there. I'm going to stay in the middle of the street. So I did with my Nikon D500 and the 18-300 at around 280 millimeters. I zoomed into this darkened area with 1600 ISO. And around f11, I believe, I got this picture. And what this guy's doing is using stretch bands, and he's doing bicep curls and making these incredible scary noises like, ah, 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 and there's nobody around. I'm thinking, who's he doing this for? And I'm thinking he's doing it because he's getting psyched up because he's going to make a kill that night, I guess. I have no idea, but it was really unsettling. So I got on the subway, and that's it. That's all I can tell you. For all I know, he could be one of those performers that you'll see in Times Square. And he's dressed up like the movie character from Vengeance. And then he's got Stephen King's clown, the It, who's obviously been the severed head with a big giant grappling fish hook. I mean, it's just really uncomfortable. Anyway, what I found interesting is that he's in front of this sign that says standing out since 1990. And further down, I did not know that was there, but there's a little bumper sticker that says Trump lies, people die. And it just all kind of, it was just really weird. Okay. Now, another one. I love street photography. In fact, I just signed a contract to do another book called Street Photography. This was in New York, Bowery and Houston. I waited 2 hours, not for this, but I mean, in 2 hours of hanging out, I was just getting all sorts of different things. This was certainly the highlight of my 2 hours. This is a art installation. A guy who put this art installation up was an artist and talking about the whole idea of consumers and their consumption. And then this guy comes along with his dog. And yeah, anyway, it's pretty good. One of my favorites. And a cat going down the stairs in Greece, always one of my favorites here. And then this is another one of those 40-minute exposures. How can that be 40 minutes? Because I'm on a deck shooting everything at around f16 at 1/8 of a second, but it takes 40 minutes before I get my first red car. And that's what I want, is a red car. So there's, you find out in situations like this, how many people buy white, silver, and black cars. And you realize there's not a whole lot of red cars, at least in France. This is in the city of Lyon where I was living at the time. And election night, again, same night I got the photograph of the scary guy. This was several hours prior. Directly behind me is a gigantic neon American flag for the Marine Army Recruiting Center. And this gentleman comes to a stop at 43rd and 7th Avenue, as did many other cars, of which I had many photographs like this, but nothing with somebody wearing their mask. I'm guessing he's probably an Uber driver, which is why he has a mask on inside the car. I don't know, but maybe not. In any event, great light rarely saves a poor composition, but a great composition will always salvage poor light. And I want to say that because I think a mistake is made by suggesting that light is everything. Light's important. There's no question about it. But in the face of a poor composition, it's a waste of great light. And my point being is that we don't always have great light. So what's our option? Well, our option is to come up with some great compositions despite the light. If we all wait for great light, we're going to shoot probably 5 times a year. And that's not going to work for me. So composition is king. I can't stress enough the value of learning composition. And I'm sure all of you know that. And I literally live and die by the, I don't call them rules, although a lot of people do, but I live and die by the suggestion of thirds. I can't imagine my life without it. Keeping in mind, I go back to 1970 when I first picked up a camera, fresh out of high school in, as you know, Salem, Oregon. And you learn how to make it work in camera because that's your only choice. I have slide film, colors, slide film at the time. I didn't have a darkroom. So yeah, you just learn how to make things work. Curiosity is a really vital importance, in my opinion, to really expanding one's vision. You're just curious. And one of the things that you're curious about is, what does something look like? Gee, what does that look like? What does that look like? What would happen if I climbed that tree and shot down? Or what would happen if I crawled in that hole and looked up? What would happen if I thought like a snake or thought like a golf ball, or if I thought like a garden hose? I mean, the list is endless. What if I had the vision of a hubcap going down the freeway? What would I see? These are just really simple questions, but they really open up your mind. The other thing that I can't stress enough that is really, really important for giving you a sense of a theme when you head out the door is consider focusing on the elements of design. Case in point, making compositions exclusively about lines or textures or pattern or shape or form or color. In this case here, I said to my students in the San Diego workshop some years ago, let's take the yellow pages out of the garbage and slap it on this table. We were at a garden center of all places, and let's do something with it. And I did that, and I said, who's first? And nobody said, well, there's nothing there to shoot. And I said, yes, there is. We have these beautiful curving lines of the yellow pages. And they're saying, I don't see it. You can't see it unless you go to the lens and see it. In this case, what lens? Macro. And let's take a look and see what that yellow page can deliver. And my point is, it's limited in its scope, no question about it. But yet it's somewhat soothing because of a combination of line and texture. And the line can't be overstated. The curvilinear nature of line is such that they are soothing just to look at. Jagged lines, on the other hand, like mountain peaks and the rise and fall of stock exchanges, is far more unsettling and erratic. It's the classic, cardiogram of your heart. If you had a cardiogram that was like this, I think people would immediately assume that the heart monitor machine's not working. Likewise, these kinds of lines are often associated with something spiritual, calming, tranquility. People say oftentimes it's God's work. In this instance here, I want to make another point, and these are things that I personally feel very strongly about, that you need to be an active participant in the creative process. And by that, I mean simply this. If something's not working in front of you, then change it within reason. Here's my point. Many of you have met and perhaps lauded the work of food photographers or studio photographers or product photographers, or for that matter, studio fashion or wedding photographers. In every single one of those instances, we naturally allow for and make room for them sharing with us. They took the bride and put her up on this rock, or they took that sandwich and moved it closer to the window and then put it on top of old barn wood, or they took that Nintendo machine and hit it with a side light in a scrim. And we all go, oh my God, it's beautiful. My question to you is, why can you not have that same freedom outdoors in nature? The minute any of us take a leaf and put it on a different rock, it's like, oh my God, you can't do that. That's not natural. And I'm saying to you, stop. You become part of the creative process. That's my feeling. You have to. In case in point, I wish there was one flower amongst this group here. This is in Italy, you know, the famous place perhaps off the freeway, that's higher than the others. Because what I want to do, I want to get a close-up of that one flower against the backdrop of the meadow and the trees in the distance. So I got a wide angle lens on, I focus it really close, I shoot at wide open, keep the depth of field to 0. And man, did I get lucky or what? No, I picked the damn thing and held it up in front of the lens. I didn't go out looking for one that's taller because there wasn't any. Not to mention, they were growing too close together to try to separate one. So that's what I mean by becoming part of the creative process. And case in point as well, the very, very famous Robert Duano, his very famous photograph, Kiss, the Kiss, this photographed in Paris, 1953 by Life magazine, or for Life magazine, my apologies. The war is over. He's been hired to go back to Paris, or not to go back. He is himself a Frenchman. He's been hired by Life to show the world it's okay to come to France. Everybody in Paris is happy. There's no more, you know, post-traumatic stress. Life is back to normal. And he gets this photograph. And up until 1993, somewhere in there, we were led to believe Duano's story. I was having coffee when this couple came by. I saw it coming out of the corner of my eye, and I said, oh my God, grabbed my Leica and got one shot. That's what we were led to believe. And why would we doubt Robert Duano? One of the greatest street photographers in history. Well, the woman in the photograph, now 87 years old, comes forward in 1994 after Duano passed away and said, I'm angry at Bob. We only got paid 200 francs, me and my boyfriend, to model for him. And lo and behold, people said, what are you talking about? She said, that's me and my boyfriend in the photo. And Bob took us to 3 different cafes and we walked back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, kissing until he said he got the shot. And nobody believed it. They go to Magnum. This is the largest, most established photo agency in all the world in Paris, where he's a member. And somewhere in the vault in Magnum, under Robert Duano's file, is 3 rolls of black and white film of this couple in 3 different locations. What's my point? My point is Duano staged a real scene, knowing full well that trying to get that of just complete strangers and get everything come together at the same time, he said, let's just stage it. Let's just become, in effect, a studio photographer. And if we have to do 3 or 4 rolls, let's do 3 or 4 rolls. Why he couldn't just come out and say, that's what I did, because Duano also had the same stigma. You don't mess with real life. To this day, I recognize, I value, I respect the journalism oath, so to speak, that comes out of Missouri for all newspaper photographers. You don't mess with it. However, an LA Times photographer was stripped of the Pulitzer Prize several years ago for having asked a fireman who was fighting the fires to dip his hat one more time and put it over his head with all this pool water and to get the shot backlit against this incredible fire that raged on the hills behind him. In other words, nobody knew that. He asked the fireman until the award ceremony where the fireman was, and he said, well, how's it feel to be part of a Pulitzer Prize photo? And the fireman said, oh, it's great. He only asked me once to do it again. And he didn't know he was getting the guy in trouble. And all of a sudden it's like, what? What do you mean he asked you? Well, yeah, he asked, he saw me do it. He said, oh, I just missed that shot. Could you do it again? So I did it again. And I'm asking myself, why is that a problem? Just for what it's worth. So moving on, I digress. Case in point, the day before I made this photo, I was inspired to do this photo you're about to see because I saw a woman come around the corner and I only saw half of a face. And I thought, oh man, that'd be a great shot. Boy, she was gone real quick. So the next day I come up with a model who I have a friend in Joe Perende who I know he knows models, and he gets me this young woman. So I can now do that photograph that I wanted to make. What have I done? I've violated some rule? I don't think so. I've simply followed my hunches and went back and made what I saw earlier. Likewise, how'd I get this? I paid the guy. How do you think? In other words, he's a real fisherman on the lake in Mandalay, Myanmar. But on this day, he's working for me. So I asked Moshin, which is what his name, Kim Moshin. I met him after he came in fishing. I saw him coming in. I said, excuse me, are you here every day? He says, well, yeah, I do this for a living. Would you like to come back tomorrow and throw the net in my direction? I'll be on another boat, obviously. And he said, how much you pay me? And I'm thinking, I think 50 bucks is enough. I said $50. And boy, he couldn't say yes fast enough. Come to find out, I could have offered him $5 and he would have been thrilled. Anyway, it's been paid off handsomely because I've been going back there for 5 years now with students once a year, and they all know Kim Moshin really well because they get this shot themselves. Anyway, little girl, now we go to Ethiopia, and I come across her. She's literally sitting here trying to cool off in the hot afternoon light. And I grab a couple shots, you know, she's all happy and smiling, and why not? But the problem is the composition. That gray window, it's unsightly, it's unnecessary. So do what I often tell my students to do, is zoom with your feet. You've heard that, I'm sure, before. Literally zoom, in other words, just get in a lot closer and get a much, much better composition. Once again, beautiful light, but let's not screw it up with a bad composition. Let's make the composition work in our favor. And this is not what you might think. In other words, you're saying to me, and I've seen these in the classes I teach, people go, oh, I'm so happy to turn in my assignment this week because you said we had to go out and shoot the color red. I'm happy. And I say, well, why'd you shoot a 57 Chevrolet Bel Air? And you go, how'd you know that was a 57 Chevrolet Bel Air? Well, because it says Bel Air and I'm familiar with the fins and all that stuff. And I told you, whatever do you do when you shoot the color red, make it impossible for me to know what I'm looking at. And the person's convinced. I'm shocked you knew what kind of car that was. I said, because it's still a car. Get rid of the car. In other words, don't shoot the noun, shoot the adjective. And that would be the adjective. And another example. That is a tow truck, an international tow truck in Brooklyn. Probably hasn't been used in years, but it's just parked on the side of the road in an industrial area. I have targeted with a white square the area of interest. Macro lens, I don't know what it is other than an abstract. Some people see a big cat in the middle with a couple of mice on both sides and they're all dancing in a snowstorm. You tell me, it's up to you. It's just nothing more than a colorful abstract. Curiosity. Again, your assignment is to go out and shoot lines, textures, pattern, shape, form, or color. Take your pick. So now you find yourself at a fish market. Where's the texture? More often than not, people will go and shoot the ice. And I'm going, no, there's no interesting in that. Ice is just white. There's nothing there. Why not the fish and the scales and the colorful fins of that fish? And sure enough, that to me is far more compelling than ice. And again, the question is, oh, wow, that's interesting. And then what is it? Not, oh, it's a fish. You don't say it's a fish right away. Nobody does. Speaking of fish, to the far left, about the middle of the frame, but on the left edge, is a yellow perch. And there's actually a whole bunch of them over there. And I apologize. This is my behind the scenes, not very good shot. But nonetheless, I asked the gentleman who is running the fish market, can I play with your fish? In other words, arrange them and take photos. And he said, yeah, but just don't, cause customers to go away. And yeah, I'll stay out of your way, no problem. So I arranged those fish into portraits, just 4 little heads. And if we break it down, once again, it's about form in this case, as well as pattern, as well as texture, as well as color. Likewise, we've heard this thousands of times. Keep it simple, less is more. And this is certainly an example of that, where you're in the Kokenhof in Holland with greenhouses of tulips, acres of them. And everybody wants to get all those tulips, and they want to get one big shot of everything. And I'm going, it's not interesting. This is interesting. One shot can say as much as everything else you've already done. So we focus in isolation, long lens, 300 millimeter, and we do a shot like this. Wide open, f4 on a f5.6 on a 75 to 300. Same idea here. This is with an 18 to 300 at 300 on the Nikon D500. And it's also 6.3 for the aperture. And we have this selective focus, shooting through those flowers to the model in the background. The 200-500 Nikkor, shooting down the side of this colorful mural of that wall, and behind we see the orange and blue building at a large distance away. Now, unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, the model insisted on wearing blue contacts. And I said, okay, that's fine. And so this is why her eyes are so blue. But you'll notice the blue and orange background in the background, as well as the colorful wall that leads up to the in focus model. And people say, well, why didn't you fix the eyes in Photoshop? In other words, not make them so blue. And I said, nah, why? I mean, that's what she had on, blue eyes. So anyway, a workshop in Savannah, Georgia. This is Lexi. She's one of the students, and those are other students behind her. And we had stopped at this bus stop, and she actually came over to ask a question. And when I turned around, this is what I saw. I said, whoa, Lexi, hold your question. You got a model. This is incredible. The light's coming through from the holes in the bus stop wall. And let's do half a face. And that's exactly what we did. And again, when life serves you up some good stuff, you know, not lemons. Well, in this case, I guess, make lemonade. But this was an amazing opportunity that all the students were able to get a photograph of. And again, fill the frame, get in really close. You're thinking, well, yeah, what'd you do? Go to Joann Fabrics and buy a bag of feathers? And I'm saying, nope, this is live, a real bird. He literally is somehow hypnotized by my shoes. I swear to you, I have no idea why. He saw my shoes, came up and started pecking at him, and then he just stopped. And he wouldn't move. And there he is. This is in Singapore at the bird park. And so I said, well, if you're going to stick around, I'm going to go ahead and fill my frame with the feathers on your back with Nikkor 18-300 that focuses ridiculously close, about 9 inches. And at 300 millimeters, that's plenty. So backgrounds, we got a butterfly here against brown versus a butterfly against green. Something I often tell students a lot is many times your background, even though you might not think it's important because it's out of focus, believe it or not, there's some tones, there's shapes, there's hue in that background, which can actually be deadly, or it can be incredibly beneficial. So if you were a buttercup, which is a very small yellow flower, what would you see in terms of that same looking down the road kind of shot? Well, you would probably see no water. You wouldn't see any road. You wouldn't see the houses. They're too low to the ground. But what you would see is this big tree in front of you. Absolutely. So again, what would I see if I was this, if I was that? And the list goes on and on and on. There's a great ad. I'm sure you've seen it if you watch Monday night or Sunday football, where people are going in the fridge. They open the fridge and they grab buds. And it's one after another after another. And it's a great camera angle. And that's just another example. Put the camera with a super wide in your own refrigerator, set the self timer or fire it with Pocket Wizards, and get yourself a picture, a motion shot of you pulling out a beer. You'd be surprised how it would actually look. I think you would be really surprised because it's going to look really good. I've done it. That's why I'm saying it. We are in Burano, Italy again, and we have a young woman who is a cardiology student at the University of Prague in Czech Republic, but she's on vacation. She's from India. How do I know all this? Because I introduced myself and I said, tell me about yourself. And then I said, can I take your picture? And she said, sure. So I did, utilizing once again that complementary colorful background. If you don't know the color balance scale in Photoshop, magenta is the opposite of green. That's why it works so well. Foreground interest. If I could give you all one assignment, it's an assignment that is never ending. Immediate foreground wide angle lens. In other words, make your wide angle lens a close-up lens. I'm not saying macro by any stretch of the imagination, but I am saying there is tremendous close-up opportunities with a wide angle lens. I'm not talking 3 feet away. I'm talking 9 inches away, 10 inches away, 7 inches away. This is a case of a student who was really happy about this photo. Oh, Bryan, I got to share this with you. Look at that. I got that foreground, that green grass. I said, that's no foreground. You kidding me? She said, what do you mean? It's like 4 feet away. I said, I know, that's not even close to a foreground with a wide angle. The wide angle lens pushes something 4 feet away and makes it look 10 feet away. Why is it doing that? Because it says, I'm going to push all that stuff back because I'm hoping that you put something in 9 inches close. Believe it or not, that makes all the difference. Look at the white flowers in the lower left-hand corner. If I move left, I'm going to end up with, sorry, I'm going to end up with the same white flowers. Get down low, now they're foreground interest. In my opinion, there's no question that you are in the flowers, so to speak, with me. And not to mention the windmill moved a little bit off center, more to the right, and so on. Likewise, we're in the lavender fields of Provence, France. And I had a student show me this and I said, oh, I'm so happy with this shot. I said, why? Well, because look at the field. I said, I know it's hardly visible. He said, what do you mean? That's so purple. I said, I know, but why is it so far away? And he said, well, I don't know. I had to go that way to get the whole tree. And I said, look to your left. You got a whole more field, right? And he said, yeah. I said, well, get in that field, get down low and shoot the same tree. And sure enough, he ends up getting a shot very similar to this. So the choice is yours. You want to do wide angle lenses? I strongly recommend, like all these students laying on their bellies, filling their foreground with yellow daisies and a runner on the road. If you come to my workshop wearing red hair, you will probably be asked to model. That's exactly what happened to Olga Zemetra, who is from Denmark. So she runs down the road. We're all shooting through yellow dandelions of her dipsy doodling down the road. And there's that foreground interest once again. So I'm going to shock a lot of you because that all is, well, maybe I won't. There are a lot of people who won't use f/22 because they buy into this whole idea of lens diffraction, which in my opinion is one of the most overblown things in the whole photographic community. It should not be avoided. You should shoot for f/22 as much as you can when you are using a wide angle and when you want maximum depth of field. In this instance here, I want to photograph through a wooden block, a square, I mean, in that fence. There's a square, you can see it in the middle of the railing. And I'm going to frame up that distant windmill by using 14 to 24 at 16 millimeters, focus at 1 meter in manual focus mode at f/22. When I focus at 1 meter at f/22, as long as I am 14 to 24, or I should say 24 or wider, so 24 down to 14, as long as I'm in that focal length on a full frame camera, I can focus at 1 meter manually, literally set the distance mark to 1 meter, which most lenses offer up, 3 feet, 1 meter, same thing, and then use f/22. My depth of field is going to be anywhere from 13 inches to roughly 18 inches, all the way to infinity. That's a massive depth of field, and that measurement is from the sensor forward. So in other words, from the sensor forward out to the front of the lens, another 4 inches is roughly 13 inches to infinity. Now, as far as lens diffraction goes, show me, where is this a problem? And if you make these gigantic prints, well, you know as well as I do, you can take the image into Topaz and do AI sharpen before you make your print. And it can clean up potential diffraction that you're worried about. But it raises an even bigger question. Why would Nikon and Sony and Canon and Fuji and all the manufacturers include 22 in a wide angle lens if it's so bad? It makes no sense. Well, they're just messing with you, that's all. They're just testing you to see if you heard about lens diffraction, because you know you don't want to use that, but we put it there just to test you. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So anyway, get in the habit of using 22. The obvious photograph here that was missed might be the mother by herself holding the baby against the blue wall, or put the mother in the window. In this case, I did both, and I'm going to share with you just the one on the window. But why not go further and then also go inside with her and shoot her against that green wall? Well, I didn't, just in case you're wondering, where is it? But I do have another green wall from a different location altogether. And with the person wearing a red scarf, man, what a great color combination. Colors of Christmas. And here we are back inside where this young girl lives in her small mud house in Ethiopia. And coming in from outside is all that wonderful light. More often than not, I want people to look at me when I take their portrait. But in this instance here, I wanted her to look out at her friends and make it a little bit less intimate, obviously, but now as a viewer, you can have more time to explore without feeling uncomfortable, perhaps. Stripes, patterns, lines. Let's just wait here. We're in a rowboat. I've hired the guy, who rows the boat. I got him all day. So he's at my disposal. Stop, don't move. All right. And he's kind of rowing to make sure the current doesn't take us down. We're just going to stay here and wait. What are we waiting for? We're waiting for something to go across those lines. Those are stairs. Nobody going up, maybe, but they're actually going this way, up and down the river Ganges in the city of Varanasi, India. Wasn't long. A lot of things happened, in fact, within minutes, but it was about 20 minutes in when this woman came by herself. And that I said, okay, I got it. I'm thrilled. That was the shot. A whole bunch of students in the boat. And again, they are all focused on the people on the stairs. And I said, why are none of you are shooting the people in the water with all the colorful reflections of the people from the stairs? And they're going, what are you talking about? I go, look. They didn't. I said, to the left. No, oh my God. Yeah, there's two guys over there that are praying and floating in the water. So this is what they were not seeing initially, which is, in my opinion, far more interesting than the people on the stairs. I asked them, I said, look, what are you getting pictures of? People on the stairs. I go, exactly. Why is that interesting? Well, because it's people on stairs. I go, okay. Do you not think this is more interesting? Well, of course. Anyway, something else, and I really want to share this with you. It needs to be said. It's difficult to explain the math today because of the type of photographic cameras that are being made. But back in my day, and many of you I'm sure can relate to this, the mathematical numbers of photography were much like the 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14 of an AM radio dial in your 56 Ford. Meaning you had F 2, 8, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 16, and 22. There wasn't this idea of variable f-stops, and there certainly wasn't variable shutter speeds. It was 60, 125th, 250, 500, and 1,000. My point is this. This gentleman who made a picture very similar to this, he was in a workshop in Paris. He said, oh, I'm so happy I did this workshop. Look at me. I did just like you said in the book. I metered off Brother Dusky Blue Sky. And I got the shot. I'm so thrilled. I can't wait to put this in my office. And I said, well, let me see. And he showed it to me. I said, oh my God, I'd be embarrassed to put that in my office. And he said, what? And he could tell I was very serious. I said, come on, you know better than that. This is one of 6 possible correct exposures. Why don't you take advantage of the longest possible exposure and get that traffic coming through at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower? And he's going, what do you mean? I said, come on, you're what, F8 at 2 seconds, right? And he says, yeah. I said, okay, what happens if you go to F11? And he goes, oh God, don't do this to me, because this is the part about photography I don't understand. I said, do the math. You go to 8 to 11, that's a whole half as big. So that means you got to double your time to keep the exposure constant. It's the same exact exposure in terms of quantitative value, but twice as long. So if 8 at 2 seconds is correct, so is F11 at 4, and so 16 at 8 seconds, and 22 at 15. I say, tell you what, we don't need to do 15, but try 16 at 8 seconds. Wait for the traffic to build up again, wait for the light to change, and try one more. So we both did. We both got shots almost identical. And now he's going, oh my God, what a difference. Look at the way that traffic looks. Oh, it's so much more interesting, the chaos and the drama. And I said, exactly. So same exact exposure, but of the two, this one is the most creative. So it's not a matter of, oh, I got to make sure and get a correct exposure. People say that to me all the time. What should my exposure be? My answer, it should be correct, but the most creatively correct. Now he's got to go. I said, where are you going? Well, I got to meet the wife and meet the kids and take them to dinner. I said, you got your wife in the workshop and the kids? I said, man, you're courageous. Not that that's a bad thing. Hey, look, I got kids myself, but you don't want to come to a workshop, but he did. So he was on their schedule as well. So I said, well, it's too bad because you should take a picture before you leave of one more of just the base of the Eiffel Tower. And he goes, no, that wouldn't be interesting because then you wouldn't know it's the Eiffel Tower. I said, what? So he missed out on the next photograph here. The next day he sees this and he goes, oh my God, are we going back there to shoot again? I said, no, that was the only night we had last night. So I know this for a fact. He went back there himself 2 years later and got this shot because he was kind of sad that he didn't make it. But anyway, onward and upward we go. Another example of something you need to know if you don't know this. It works with Christmas lights. It works with any singular light source. It works with somebody pointing a flashlight at you. In this case, it's a single street lamp. He's got a macro lens on. He's focusing on a dandelion. I want to see him use a fluorescent white balance to impart a magenta-esque type color as well. So he focuses on that and sets the exposure for the somewhat bright yet diffused street lamp that's an out of focus ball of light. And he silhouettes that seed head. And this is the result. It's not the moon, it's not the sun, it's a street lamp. So if you understand the principle of any out of focus spot of light assumes a curvilinear circular shape, then you know that you can do this at will with most anything. Texture is the assignment. And this is clearly a pattern of some serious texture that you don't really want to come across in any kind of barefoot or fall on or fall into. What exactly are we looking at here? This is an industrial walkway intended to keep you upright so you don't slip. And here we've got the old Milwaukee girl with a windshield broken glass in a junkyard, automotive junkyard. And we're just going to put that over the top of her and end up with a different interpretation of the old Milwaukee girl. And here we've got, any guesses? Probably we could be here till midnight. And you would probably never assume for a moment it's a burn barrel, but that's what it's from. And again, why am I doing this? I'm just curious. What does that look like? I'm just curious. Let's put a lens on there and find out. Likewise, we're in downtown Chicago, Millennium Park, July, and we've got these tents that they do put up for the afternoon thunderstorms that do come through Chicago at times, so people can run in there and stay dry. I'm loving all the crinkliness of that plastic, however. So let's focus on that crinkly plastic with the cafe and the colorful umbrellas behind it at some distance. So we take out the 105 millimeter macro. We stop the lens down substantially to about 22 to get detail in the background. And we end up with photographs like this. Without fail, people will see this and go, I got those Nick filters too. And those are a cool effect. It's like, this isn't a Nick filter. This is a crinkly plastic in Chicago. And it's like, whoa, you're kidding. No, come on, you did that in Photoshop. No, I didn't do it in Photoshop. It's crinkly plastic. Likewise, I didn't do this in Photoshop. This is nothing more than what? I'll give you a hint. It's taken in Abu Dhabi. You give up? Okay. It is nothing more than a giant wash tub with colors of plastic bins reflecting in it. That's all it is. See there? Yep, nothing more than that. And, the hand of Bryan Peterson got in the creative process way. What did I do? I picked up a flower growing in the alleyway and I held it up against that wall. That is a Michaelmas daisy. And the colors, I couldn't pass it up. So this is what I got. Why not? I'm a studio photographer outside. I'm a studio photographer again. This is on the Oregon Coast Range. There's a leaf inside that crack of that big old tree. How did it get there? Well, I put it there. That's a horizontal, and the best time to shoot a next picture, which is a vertical, is of course right after the horizontal. I always want to shoot the vertical if there's a vertical shot to be taken, and vice versa. Look what the cat dragged in. We got some feathers here on this cardboard piece. Feathers from a female cardinal. I was really angry when my cat showed up with a female dead cardinal because it was the first week of May, which meant somewhere there's a nest that will never get hatched because the mother was killed. So not too happy with the cat, but what are you going to do? So I threw the bird feathers in the garbage, the bird, and then the next day before the garbage man came, I was hit with the inspiration to at least try to immortalize something about that bird. So I pulled some feathers out, sprayed them with a bottle from the Chicago Cubs opening day several weeks prior. And when I put the bottle down, I had no idea this was going to happen, but all of a sudden there's blue light going through the bottle now from the sun onto the feathers, covering those drops of water that I sprayed on the feathers in blue. And that's where we have the blue coming from. So again, just something serendipitous that happened. Another bird shot. 18-300 with Canon's 500D close-up filter allows me to get this close-up shot without having to get bit by that giant macaw beak. They are kind of fierce birds if you're not careful. I learned that. Again, all about color and line in this case. Same thing here, diagonal line versus horizontal. And lots and lots of converging parallel lines here in Provence, France. I'm in a bucket truck, just so you know, I'm not in a drone. This is 1998 before I even had digital. This is a scan of a slide, but I'm in a actual rented bucket truck. I was driving all over the fields by myself with a 75-foot boom. And I think that's the first time and probably last time anybody's ever done that. I'm thinking about doing it again because, man, you can get some amazing shots. Here I'm above a bridge or on a bridge in India, and people do their laundry, and great patterns to shoot down upon as people walk through with more laundry, which is certainly the case here. And a background of orange rice bags. I just need somebody to stand up against it. Sure enough, I find the guy 5 minutes later. I don't know much about him because I did not speak his language, and he did not speak a word of English. So it was a lot of hand gestures to get this photo. I used to cart around with me a 1200 millimeter Nikkor F11 for shots, not like this, but for shots like this. And that's back in the day when I did a lot of commercial work, and clients, of course, would oftentimes, I'd get a phone call say, "Are you the guy that has them big suns in the portfolio?" And I'd say, "Yeah, that's me." So needless to say, I was hired a lot to shoot big suns for a lot of corporations. I did a lot of work for energy related companies, as well as coal, oil, gas, and of course, in this case, hydro. This was done for Bonneville Power Administration. The use of a flash, recommended highly. Backlit without flash, backlit now with flash. And the key to shots like this, of course, is to set your exposure for the ambient light, put your flash on, TTL, and fire away. She wanted me to get a picture taken. It doesn't happen often, but when somebody says, "Will you take my picture?" more often than not, I'm happy to do it. And so I walked her up the street a few blocks to knowing that I'd just come down the street. And I said, "There's a nice blue background up there." So we put her against the blue background and made this photograph you see there. And now I'm in Hong Kong in Sim Tsai Tu, which is one of the richest areas for shopping. I'm not there to shop, I'm there to shoot. And I really fell in love with that jewelry store facade. The gold vertical lines and those like swoop-de-swoops of butterfly wings and the tree growing amongst it all. So that became my focus. And mergers, they're small, but look at the merger with the little twig and the beak. I know you guys do this in your judging of contests. Those get you in trouble. So I tell students a lot of times when you can't control the merger, just wait. And in this case, the bird flew to a different part of the branch and cleaned things up. So that was nice. Purple onions in the background. We got a subject in the foreground, anxious to be shot. So line them up, put them against that background with purple on both sides. It's a color complement to green once again. It's like the magenta green thing. Again, and his eyes are so stunning. Fritos, I tell people all the time, Fritos or Doritos, you have a little bag with you. Why? Because you need chum the water when the ducks are there. And then the ducks come closer in and they line up for you and you get your photo. So why not? And this is a nice photo. That's the problem with it. It's got the word fragile. It's got the word nice. And anytime you got words or letters in a photograph, that's the first thing the brain sees. A student had a picture taken like this. And I looked at it and I said, "That's really nice." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, really, it's nice, but I don't like it." And I explained, of course, what I was talking about. And he goes, "Well, okay, so how can I make it better?" And I said, "Well, go to the right, get down low, put him against that yellow wall." In other words, with a long lens, you can pull that wall in. And when you're ready, just go, "Hey," really loud. And then he'll look up. And because I don't think he can hear very well. And so he said, "Well, I can't do the hey part." And I said, "I'll do it for you." So he gets all set up and I said, "Are you ready?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." So I went, "Hey." And then the guy looked up while he took the picture. So there you go. And now it's a nice picture. And here we got a girl on the street who's got these red, I don't know what they're called, extensions in her hair. And anybody who's on the street wearing red extensions like this, they can't wait for you to stop them and say, can I take your picture? Trust me, they really want you to stop and ask them to take their picture. So we did, and she said, moi, you want to take my picture? Well, I'll be darned. Sure. And we did. And any idea where that blue background came from? Believe it or not, I said, hey, remove that jacket because I like the background. And sure enough, we held her jacket up while we each took photographs of her on the streets of St. Louis, Missouri. And I felt really bad for Wanda. She took this picture and was almost crying and said, I can't believe I actually did it. I came all the way to France and I got my lavender sunflower shot. I'm so happy. And I said, you're happy with that? She said, oh, I said, I wouldn't be happy with that at all. And she said, oh, why? I said, why'd you put the barn in there in the sky? What? That's nothing. It's not interesting. And she goes, what? I didn't even know that. I didn't see that. Oh my God, I didn't even see that. I said, Wanda, you're suffering like a lot of us do when we first start out in photography. You're suffering from blowing things out of proportion, what we call a image magnification. We do it for reasons of making us feel safe. So she blew up this great goal of hers to shoot lavender and sunflowers in her mind and was convinced that's all she was shooting, only to discover that she did not. So she obviously went back and cleaned it up and got rid of the barn and went in closer, and she got shots like this. My point is, we've all can tell you the same story, I'm sure, that we photographed these 5-point deer out in the farmer's field only to find out later it was a brown dot when we got the film back. So yeah, in any event, I love to shoot letters, love it a lot. In this case, I'm shooting the letter N, and people say, well, letters? And I go, yeah, man, you'd be surprised. It's so cool just to have a whole collection. I've got over 15 alphabets of letters from all over, in my travels. And again, people say, well, why? And I go, well, you never know when you need to write a ransom note. So I'm ready, if when that day comes. And a few other things here. Work the subject, a couple of workers on top of the Opera House in Singapore. This is from the 45th floor of that same hotel. I go there every year. And sure enough, there they are. But yeah, maybe we don't want to get the water in it next time. So we just get a longer lens out and do some other shots. Don't really give you a point of reference. But again, break it down. What do we really got here? We got pattern and we got color. That's it. Nothing else. And scale, of course. Yeah. Same thing here. We got color and sense of scale, kind of like the workers. This is in Norway. Norway, you go to the hardware store and they have 2 paint colors on the shelf, red and yellow. That's your choice. So if you've been there, you know what I mean. Either the farmhouse is yellow or it's red. Okay, and here's my daughter who did not want to wake up Saturday morning years ago and run for her father in 20-degree weather along Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. And of course, the answer is real simple. What do you mean you don't want to get up? Are you crazy? It's cold. I said, are you crazy? Do you want to go to college? I thought I heard you say that, something like that. And she's like, what? I said, yeah, you're going to college. Well, yeah, but so I said, so get out of bed and go run for your pops. So I'm really thrilled to tell you that she graduated this past June, 4 years at the University of Washington. And then she went to get her master's at University of Chicago. And now she's working in Los Angeles. So it all worked out. One final thought. Shoot the same thing in seasons. And with the whole global changing in the world and everything, I think you're standing a good chance these days to get winter snowfalls, at least one. So get your spring shot, get your summer shot, get your fall shot, and of course your winter shot. So it's rough on the family because you're obviously gone a whole year, but that's okay. Just yeah, take a lot of sandwiches with you. Anyway, in all seriousness, I just want to say as a tribute to all the photographers in the world, hey, until next time, you keep shooting. So there you go. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we'll stop the share. And I should have asked, but I forgot. Any questions? Guess we got to be unmuted here, so we'll wait for the boss to unmute everybody.
Well, while everyone's waiting to get unmuted, I'm going to say thank you, Brian. It's always a pleasure, and it was a great review of your thinking that I've become more familiar with. So it was
exactly.
great. Thank you.
There you have. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Everybody else is still muted. Matt, can you unmute?
Question way back early on. Did
Yeah.
Dad pick up the dog poop?
He actually did not, and I did not call him out. I didn't have to. He got called out by a few other people, and he came back, and all he did was kick it into the street. So
That's something, I guess.
yeah.
Brian, do you want to tell us what your website is and how to find you? He mentioned Instagram, but I know you have the other.
Yeah. Well, my website is actually, tell you what I'll do. I'll go back and do a quick screen share. If it's okay with you guys. I'll just put it up here. It's right there. And yeah. So I'll do a quick screen share. Oh, wait a minute. Can't share the screen. How come? Oh, yes, I can. There we go. Okay. So there it is right there. And so it's Bryan F. Peterson photoworkshops.com. And if you want to screenshot that on your computer, that's fine. And then here's where you can find the book if you're interested and get a signed copy. And then down below here is all this workshop schedules for 2021. You can see them all right here. So yeah. Okay. So I'll leave that up there. That's far enough. Y'all got a screenshot of it, so we'll stop the share. Okay.
And do you want to tell them about the You Keep Shooting community?
Yeah, that's a really cool thing that Madeline's a part of as well. We got about 600 members. It's youkeepshooting.com. And it actually originated from years ago when I started doing my YouTubes, long before I got involved with Adorama, which I'm no longer involved with Adorama. But I used to end every tip on YouTube with, hey, until next time, this is Bryan Peterson reminding all of you, you keep shooting. So I've since trademarked You Keep Shooting, and I opened up a website, youkeepshooting.com, and it is literally a gigantic library of videos of photo tips, several hundred so far, as well as a a monthly webinar, and then a monthly critique session and a monthly assignment that everybody can participate in, which I in turn critique at the webinar, all the uploads for the assignments, and also the monthly contest, which people receive certificates for the top 3 photos of the month. And you get all that for $9.95 a month. It keeps people motivated from everything all the feedback we get. People find it highly inspiring. They keep motivated. There's a community that meets on Facebook and things like that. So, yeah. So that's of interest.
I'm a part of that. And I find it's a great reference library when I need to look something up, or, if I'm learning photo. My Photoshop learning is basically from Brian. It's sort of learning Photoshop hacks, just how to do something without having to understand the whole thing and get that whole learning curve that it would take years to do. But at least I've learned to do some Photoshop things through these websites and through your videos, Brian. So thank you.
Yeah, there's also,
as well as shooting ideas, obviously.
Right. Yeah, as Madeline refers to, the most of the video tips are anywhere from 1:30 seconds to 3 minutes. So it's quick. In addition, the same thing with the Photoshop tips. Like there's 3-minute tips on how to do an adjustment layer, 3-minute tips on just doing a layer mask, and you can slow the video down anytime you want and say, what do you say again? And it's just step by step. So it's real easy. So anyway, but for me, on my part, I just want to say, seriously, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to share what I'm doing with folks. So, yep.
Thank you, Brian. That was very interesting.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it very much, Brian.
Yeah.
I wanted to call your attention, James, in the background. I noticed that's the lighthouse down there in Banyan, is it not?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I missed the cheese. I missed the cheese really bad.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places on the coast.
Yeah. Also, the golf course down there is so amazing. I have yet to golf it, but I've seen pictures. My brother's been down there and golfed it as well. The Bandon Dunes.
Oh, I don't think I've ever been there.
Oh, they're seriously thinking of making it potentially, not yet, but a couple of years down the road, possibly a place for the US Open. So, oh, there's my daughter. I gotta decline that. There we go. So yeah, it could be a US Open tournament down there sometime. We'll see.
Bryan.
Yeah.
Ron Cooper, voice from your
Oh my
phone.
God, it is Ron Cooper. How are you, buddy?
You have gone long, long ways in the world since I kid from
Boy, you know, I have you to thank, Ron. You and Jerry Lewin both, but especially yourself. I can't thank you enough for how much you instilled in me the confidence to just put one foot in front of the other. I mean, it was the world of difference.
It's amazing how far you've gone and what you've done. And it's been a pleasure to follow your career. I've really enjoyed that.
Well, I don't know if you remember Dick Gorby from Classic Camera.
Yes.
Yeah, he was hanging out with me for a while too, over on Facebook, and then I gave that a lot of less attention and hung out on Instagram a lot more. But I haven't heard from him in a while. I'm assuming he's still okay. He's doing well, or as far as you know.
As far as I know, I've lost track of a lot of those people, but
Okay.
But I've been able to follow you through publications and your books and
Right.
you do, and it's been fun to watch where you've gone with this obsession.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, man. And you guys have no idea what this is doing to me right now. I mean, I could just cry with joy. I mean, Ron, his influence on my career it's beyond measure. And I don't think he even recognizes it, but anytime I had something to share and I could, get his ear and just say, what do you think? And he'd say, I go, oh my God. Ron Cooper say he liked it. And I remember vividly to this day, I woke up to the front page of the paper with my photo on the front page of the Statesman Journal of a Boise Cascade air pollution photo contest winner, which was, I had won that year.
Yep.
And it was my picture and I went, oh my God. And I couldn't wait to share with Ron. And Ron was like, man, that's like high profile stuff. You're well on your way. And it just changed my life. It really did. I mean, if you get a little confidence behind you, about
Yep.
something like this, you can really go a long way. So you're such an icon, man. What are you doing nowadays?
Still shooting.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Back to work for an online newspaper.
Hmm.
It's complicated by COVID, and but we've had, I don't know if you followed, we had one of the biggest news events I think of the century up in the San Am Canyon with a wildfire that burnt for 2 weeks.
I know it was huge. I never saw the fire. I saw the fire when I came through Oregon Coast Workshop last month down there by just outside of Lincoln City.
Oh, you'd never believe it. You'd never believe the tremendous amount of damage that's been done to that beautiful San Am Canyon.
Oh.
But anyway, I've been doing some work for that newspaper just to keep my hand in it.
Yeah.
And because it's something I can't let go of.
Yeah, right. What are you shooting with nowadays?
Nikon, but I've not switched to mirrorless yet, but I've considered that.
I'm not mirrorless at all. Are you shooting with the D6 or the D5s?
No, D500.
Oh, D500 as well. Great for you. Yeah, I love that camera. Absolutely love it.
Oh, the technology. I mean, so you and I go back.
I know we do.
I apologize. You and I go back to a time when you shot black and white.
Yeah, I know.
If you wanted to share it with somebody and they were out of town, you put it in an envelope, got an 8.5 by 11 envelope, took it to the post office and mailed it out. That's the way you shared photos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
And
I don't know if you know the story, if I've even shared it with you, but I used to go down to, I don't remember the name of the frame shop that I used to get my artwork frame before I got into photography. But it was an old man and a young kid down there on State and Front Street. Anyway, next to them, there was a guy, it was an old camera shop. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I walked in there to purchase what I thought was black and white film. And he had a basket full of outdated Agfichrome.
oh,
And it was silver and black with orange lettering. And I thought, oh, this is something new. So I grabbed it, shot 6 rolls of it, went to my brother's house in Philomath, who turned me on to photography. And as I'm going in there to spool it on the reels, he says, whoa, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to process this film. He said, that's color slides. I said, what? You got to be kidding me. Oh, geez. Well, I was really pissed off because I just come off the San Am Pass, ironically, of a camping trip. And I remember specifically photographing sliced cucumbers and tomatoes that I was going to fry up in the skillet. And I made a picture of that. And I wanted to see that in black and white. So now I had to get my film process. So I took it back to a classic camera to Dick's and I had to wait a couple of days, get it back. And I just went, oh my God, look at that green and the red of the tomatoes. And just like that, I said, no more black and white for me. I'm shooting color slides. So a mistake launched my career into the color, ironically. So anyway, great to see you, man. Really great to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you and to visit with you.
Listen, I'm going to write this down because I'm going to come look you up. What's your email?
Cooper Photo
Yeah.
@mac.com.
Cool. All right. Man, this is so cool. Madeline, I can't thank you enough. This is like the highlight of my night.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad Ron dropped in. Ron is not usually with our group. So I don't know if the rest of you know who he is. He's been with the States. He was a Statesman Journal photojournalist, and he's going to be our speaker in January. So we're really looking forward to that.
Hey, is Jerry still alive?
He is, but he's having some real serious health problems.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
You know, his wife died a few years ago, and a typical thing that happens as you age. You just kind of have to expect that. But yeah, he was a big influence on my photography.
Yeah.
You know, he was when I came here in '69, he was at the Capital Journal.
Right.
And he was an extraordinary photographer. And I convinced him to teach me to print black and white.
Okay.
Best black and white printer I've ever seen.
I would agree. Yeah, he did a lot of dodging and burning. That was his style.
Oh,
yeah. Wow, this is so
He was
cool.
wide angle. He was a real aficionado of the wide angle lens.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. In fact, he motivated me, and I just mentioned it tonight in my talk. He was the master of utilizing it as a close-up lens. In other words, he had extreme foreground interest and then this great depth to it.
Yes.
And he was the king of it. He really was. Yeah. Oh, this is great. Yeah. Well, listen, you and I can
I'm
talk
glad I
more
could put you
later,
guys
but-
back together. I'm so glad Ron, you joined us for this. It's lovely to meet you as well. We've spoken, but it's nice to see you.
Yeah, I will definitely email you, Ron, and we'll keep this going.
I'd look forward to it. I'd love to.
Yeah, and I'm out your way. Maybe I'm thinking about coming out this weekend for the big storm, but I just looked at my calendar. I can't, but maybe in December. So we'll see. That'd be fun. Definitely. All right. Listen, well, thanks again, everybody. And I don't know what else to say except until next time, you keep shooting.
I'll see you Monday. Take care.
All right,
Brian.
see you Monday.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I think that's anything else, Rick, that's going on tonight? Rick, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Welcome back.
No, that concludes our regular scheduled programming. If anybody else got anything they want to talk about, we can always do that.
Yeah, I just like to, if you guys can get some feedback to me, because if I'm going to try to get speakers, it's good to know the feedback and how this worked for you and if it was interesting and whatever your feedback is. So I know where to go ahead and look for people in the future. I'm seeing a thumbs up. Thank you. Yeah, all right. We got two. Oh, we got a lot of thumbs up. Yay!
Yes. Madeline, in fact, I was going to thank you for putting that together because that was great.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. As Bryan said, I did take his workshop in Oregon. His workshops are, it's 8 hours of shooting basically. So you've got to be, you're up at dawn and you're shooting. And I had, some mixed reactions to it because 8 hours shooting for 4 days a week is a little tough for me. But other than that, I find that his workshops are interesting. I really like his online programs. The You Keep Shooting for me. And I've just done an 8-week program with him called On Assignment. So for me, I find it really helpful. But that's my experience because I'm in sync with that. And I'm not a landscape photographer particularly. So that's not my direction. So I find that what he can teach me, I can learn a lot from and motivate myself and get my own vision going. It really inspires me. So I recommend you might want to check those things out. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. And it's good to see you all. And Ron, as I said, it's delightful to see your face and meet you. And we'll talk more about getting together and have you here as our speaker in January. I'm really looking forward to that as well. All right, so that's it for me.
You're going to invite Bryan back to watch Ron do his presentation?
Absolutely. Of course. Of course.
That'll be cool.
I'll tell you, Brian is a tough act to follow. He's really good. I hope you all picked up a lot of really useful information. He's
Yeah.
a wonderful teacher.
Yeah, and he's been doing this a while. He's got his presentation down and he's a very personable guy.
Yeah.
So he's really, and he works as a mentor. So, yep. All right, I'm glad you all enjoyed this. I hope you all did. And if there's any feedback, and if any of you have suggestions for speakers or activities, please let me know, because otherwise you're going to be stuck listening to me. So,
Hey, Madeline,
Bye.
we're just wondering that the website you talked about, youkeepshooting.com, just a U or is it YOU?
YOU.
Okay.
YOU keep shooting. And he puts out anywhere from, like, I think it's 3 to 4 little videos a week. And they're organized under, there'll be the newest videos, but then you can search for videos under composition, under macro, under whatever the different issues are. So yeah, it's, if you're interested in doing that, so recommend it. It seems to me a good deal. And I really get a lot from the critiques. I find that extremely helpful. Yeah. All right, guys. Hopefully we'll see some of you at Critique next week also.
All right.
Good night.
All
Rick,
right.
anything
Bye.
else? That's
Madeline.
it?
All right.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good one all.
Wonderful.
All right, good. Take care, all. Be healthy.
All right,
You
good
too.
night. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I guess we're going to end it now if nobody else has got anything.
See you next month or next week, whichever comes first.
Week for me.
Or Friday.
Or Friday, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Take care, folks.
See
Be
everybody
healthy.
then. Good night.
Stay COVID free.
Bye. Good
Right.
night.